Okay, we are going to get started with the discussion board training for Blackboard WT class, and we hope that this training will help you all to create discussion boards that will promote academic discourse, reflection, and peer review. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat box. If you want to just jump on the mic, and I'm happy to pause and um, interact with you all, since it is a small training. And so don't hesitate to jump on the mic. Okay, so I'm gonna share a few things to help you think about how to simply create your discussion boards, share some best practices to set up those discussion boards, how to participate and monitor the discussions, and then also grade the discussions. So a few tips before you begin creating discussion boards. We would recommend that you type your questions, requirements, and expectations in a Word document. And it would be best to type all of your discussions before you integrate them into Blackboard WT class, so that you'll have it ready to go, and then you can create all of your discussion threads and link it to the appropriate learning module or content folder. And in this training, I'll be able to show you how to create the discussion boards, but then also link it to the appropriate learning module content folder, which is a best practice as your students navigate and complete their online courses with you. So the instructions, of course, should be detailed, and there should be requirements for your students on how they should interact with one another, how, whether it's responding to their peers. So it's really important to think about how you want your students to participate. And one way that you can help promote critical thinking is having them either evaluate a journal article, the chapter that they're reading, and they can have a discussion with their peers and yourself uh, to synthesize the information that they're learning. One recent faculty consultation that I had, we were talking about how to engage your students to read through every discussion board, and she came up with an idea where after the students complete the discussion board, she's going to have them reread it and synthesize what did the class agree on a specific topic, or what information did everyone learn together. And so that might be something that might be helpful. I just wanted to share that with you. So these are a few tips to help you get set up on your discussion boards. Some best practices. It's important, if you're going to use discussion board, to have students start using it from the start. And so you want to include a meet and greet or an introduction discussion board where your students can get to know one another. You can get to know your students. You could ask them what their goals are for what they want to learn in your course, or maybe perhaps their career goals, and so that you can get to your students and create a community online. Also, having weekly discussions is something that can be helpful with your teaching and your students' learning, so they understand that they will have to participate in a thoughtful discussion, and you set up their requirements and expectations. And so if they know that they're going to have to complete that discussion by Thursday of each week, then they are more likely to ensure that it's done. Plus, they will be able to review your requirements and interact with their students, and have that academic discourse each week. And grading students on their active participation is important. And so students, not only do they, provide that initial response, but, when you're grading your students, think about how many times do you want them to respond, and give them feedback earlier on in during that first or the second discussion board, where they are, reading academic material and have to participate in a discussion board. Let them know if they need to be more thoughtful in their responses. So then, and give them examples, so that they can meet your requirements. One other best practice is that we want faculty to let their students know that they can type their responses, uh, so that they don't attach the responses. There is an option to attach responses, and so which means that you have to double click or even download a file. And so uh, faculty in the past have shared they don't quite like that feature because they want to be able to read the discussion right away. And so in your instructions, you might want to let your students know that they should type their responses in the discussion board. However, if you want them to attach a file, there might be a specific discussion that you want them to add attachments, such as journal, a peer review journal, or sharing articles, or even for peer review for a final paper or midterm paper. And so those are the instances that you would like them to attach a file. And then the last best practice is to link your discussions with the appropriate content learning module or content folder, and utilizing this so that your students are participating in discussions related to that week or that unit that their students are using specific articles or activities that you have them do. And so then when it's time for them to do the discussion board, they'll just jump right in after reading those articles or participating in the learning activities that you provide. And so we'll dive right in to creating a forum. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this course real quick, and it has the template that we use for best practices. So you'll notice to the right that this is a template that our team has created. So if you don't have access to this, we're happy to give you access to it. Just email us at itsc@wtamu.edu, and we'll ensure that you get access to this. And so this will help you create your online course with best practices in mind. And so for discussion board, you'll see that there is a link right here in this template for discussion board. And this symbol right here means that it's hidden from students. And so we would recommend that you build out your discussion boards in this link. And this is basically your faculty area where you'll be able to build each forum after you type up all your discussion boards in a Word document, and you'll click there to build out each forum. And then for the best practices, once you're done building those out, you'll go into the content folder right here or tab, and you'll be able to link each of those discussion forums that you've created to the appropriate week or unit. Okay, so we're going to jump right into discussion board, and you'll click on create forum. And then you can title your discussion board. So let's say introduction. Then this is where you can type your requirements here and include expectations for your students. So questions that they'll need to answer. And then we're gonna go through the settings. Form availability, you click yes, and then you'll put the dates that you want it to be available. So if you only want them to have access to it for maybe the first week of classes, you can go ahead and do that. And then maybe each week, you have a new discussion board pop open, and they have that week to complete their discussion thread. And you can select the dates and times. So for the forum settings right here, we have the viewing threads and replies. You have your standard view, and then you have your participants must create a thread. These two options, the difference between these two options is that the standard view students can actually see the other students' responses before they post. And so if you don't want students to read any responses, we would recommend that you click on participants must create a thread in order to view other threads in this forum. This will ensure that the student creates responses, so then their discussion boards are authentic and original. And so definitely recommend that. In order to connect your discussion board to Gradebook, you'll need to select Grade Discussion Forum, assign the number of points, and then show participants in needs grading status after every 3 posts. We would recommend selecting 3 posts because 1 would be the original post, and then 2 would be their responses. We would also recommend that you don't start grading until after your due date, so that you could actually review all of their replies, because they might do 4 or 5 or 6. So say that you started grading earlier because a student completed all 3 posts and you graded it, but then they decided to respond to a few others because they wanted to engage in conversation. It's going to put another needs grading if they have an additional 3. And so you want to wait to grade your discussion boards until after the due date. And you'll be able to select your due date here. And I'm going to say my discussion boards will be due on Sunday. And so they have the week until, Sunday to complete by the end of the day. And so the subscribe area, we would ask that you just keep it as is. Students can subscribe to each of the discussion boards. We highly, we don't really recommend it unless it is a Q&A or a water cooler type discussion board where you want to be able to know when students are responding. So then this is where faculty, we would recommend that you subscribe to those types of discussion boards, and so that you can see when students are asking specific questions regarding assignments, if it's a Q&A discussion board, and you can monitor it, and you can answer questions as needed. So for the viewing threads and replies for participants, students don't have access to these features for create and edit. And so, however, if you change it to standard view, then you have access to selecting allow author to delete own posts. You have access to allow author to edit own published posts. We would recommend that you be very careful with this because say that you have a student that completes their work and they end up editing it after you grade it, and you don't have the discussion board turned off, then the student could go back and say, I met all the requirements. And so just because of the fact that this feature has been turned on. So if you're going to use this feature, just be very careful with it and just make sure that your discussion board is turned off after the due date and you don't grade it until after the due date. And so there's no confusion. But I'm going to go back to participants must create a thread in order to view other threads in this forum. You'll see that there's that file attachment. So students can attach a file. We would recommend that you include information on how you want them to attach a file. So if you want them to respond in the discussion thread, which will be a window that looks like this, we would recommend that you do that, and so that you're not having to click so many times. The other option right here is force moderation of posts. So if you click that, if you use this feature, we would recommend to use it for any type of discussion boards that might have some conflict or political conversations, and so that you can review anything before it actually posts for other students to see. So we would recommend that faculty use it for maybe sensitive topics so that you can review students' posts before they go live. And these options, if you want to know more, just let us know. This is something that we can share more later. And so this is to create your forums, and I'm going to click submit. So as you can see, the form is not available right now, but it's available during that first week or June 1st. And so the settings are there. I'm going to create one more form real quick just to go over that. and then we'll go over linking it to the content area. So this will be, let's just say week 2, and I'm just going to say chapter 2, and you can type your information for the discussion board here and requirements. I'm going to make this available. I'm just going to display it during week 2. So I'm going to make it available on the Saturday of the 6th of June until, let's see, the 14th of June. So they have that week and it's due. I'm opening it a little earlier. You don't have to do it that early. So it's up to you all as faculty members to decide. And then I am going to do end of day for the due date. And so again, I'm going to go over the participants must create a thread. So the original post before they see others. I'm going to connect it to the gradebook. I'm going to add 3 posts, and then the due date will be on the 14th. End of day. Let's see. And then let me just double check to make sure. So we're good there. Everything looks good. And I'm going to click submit. So I've created 2 forms here, and you'll see all the details for this form underneath. It's not available, but it will be available. And so as you create your discussion boards for your online courses, you will be able to create all of your forms here. And so that would be the first step, is create all your forms in this discussion board tab. And then once you're done with that, you'll be able to go into this content area and link it to the specific learning module. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm going to move on to content. If you have questions, just jump on the mic if you like. So I'm going to move over to the content area. You'll see that we have our content folders here. You might have chosen to do learning modules. So if anything, you'll go into the learning module or the content folder to add your discussion boards. And so I'm going to go to Unit 1. And you'll see our meet and greet form is already linked here. I'm going to go ahead and link another discussion board. And so I'm going to click on Tools. You're going to click on Discussion Board. And you're going to click on Select a Discussion Board Forum. And so what I'm going to select, let's say, Introduction. And click Next. So one of the things that's really important is that you have the Word document where you type all of your questions available, so you can copy that right here. So I'm just going to put discussion board requirements right now, discussion requirements here. So again, you'll have to just copy that requirements again in this field. It's just one of those things that it doesn't carry over for some reason. So it's really important when you link it that you just copy that there so your students will see the requirements for that discussion thread. And so going back to the tips and best practices, having that Word document just makes it easier for you to copy your discussion boards. The other thing, you don't have to worry about these options right here. You have already done this in the discussion board area right here, so you don't have to worry about the availability. So the confusing thing is if you start working in this and changing the availability here, then it becomes really confusing and it might not display appropriately. So just choose one area where you'll do the settings. And again, we recommend it you do it in this discussion board menu tab. And so just leave the options like this, and then we'll click submit. And then you'll see that the discussion board link is right here. So what I will do is I'm going to go into student preview and then go ahead and respond to this so you kind of see how that looks like. And then we'll go into monitoring the students' responses and best practices for grading discussions. let's see. I'm going to go into this folder. There's the introduction. And I need to go back to faculty view because it is not available right now. So I'm going to change that real quick. So now you see, this is good for you guys to see. So when you do have those settings and it works. And so I edit the settings in the discussion board tab. So I'm going to exit this preview real quick. Does anyone have questions so far? Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go back to discussion board, go to introduction. I'm going to uncheck those so it'll be available. And then go back to student preview. And then I'm going to go into the content folder, click on the content folder right here, and introduction is right here. So this is what the student will see. And then your requirements, again, will be right here. So they'll be able to understand what they have to post, and they'll click create thread. I'm just going to put then this is where they would type their responses and then click submit. Krista, do you mind jumping into that discussion board and responding to my post and then creating a thread? And I can take any questions if you have any questions. Okay, so before we move on to the grading part, Ryan, do you mind jumping on the mic with me?
Sure.
Yay. Okay, good. So what are some ideas that you have for your discussion boards in your online course? Is there something that you've been thinking about doing?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. I'm sort of thinking out loud here. I'm
No,
going to be
you're good.
having them, I'm probably going to be giving them 2 different discussion questions each week. This is for a graduate seminar. One sort of, it's a literary theory seminar. So one kind of applying the theory to a specific literary text. That'll be one question, or one discussion question. The other one will have something to do more with just discussing the theory itself. Is that what you asked?
Yes, I think so. You're thinking 2 discussion boards each week and different way. It seems like you're, yeah. Just I wanted to have you and I was going to ask Cindy as well, like what are some ideas that you guys had just to share so you guys can, learn. I think to learn from one another is really important. And so, and it doesn't mean that you have to have everything set out ready to go right now. I think hopefully after learning the steps to create the forums and linking it to your content folders will help you, begin to start creating those weekly discussions.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think through, exactly how much to require, how much not to. It's a graduate seminar shoved into a one month online course, and so there's just way too much to talk about. So I'm going to have to think about, you know, how to cram not cram as much in, but how to get a lot in a short amount of time.
Well,
How to pick and choose what we're going to talk about. Essentially, it's going to mean we're only going to talk about a fraction of what we could talk about. So.
yeah, and you have a whole month, and so I definitely understand trying to figure out how to put as much emphasis on the teaching everything that you try to, that you're teaching in a full semester in a whole month, and how do you create, learning opportunities for your students to have that academic discourse. And so discussion boards can help out with that, and thinking about the requirements is really, important. And so I think, looking at what your students are doing in the course and having them respond to each other in a discussion board will be helpful. And so whether it's if they're reading articles or if they are analyzing text for you in your course, then have them participate in discussion to share that, maybe a snippet of the work that they're going to be doing, for a paper. And so
yeah,
I guess those would be some thoughts just to recommend.
yeah.
So go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Oh, I'm thinking about having so I don't know, discussion boards. I'm just concerned that they're going to be. I know this is a much bigger conversation. They're going to be the one of the main sort of benefits of a graduate seminar, in my experience, has been not only them discussing things amongst themselves, but having to kind of test their ideas out in front of me and live in front of their peers, and kind of being challenged by me to kind of defend their positions, putting people in conversation. So I'm thinking about supplementing the discussion forums with some stab at a synchronous session where we're all meeting at the same time and discussing. And I'm actually thinking what I'll do is have that be after the discussion boards are due. And I'm thinking, we can use that synchronous session to actually discuss what they wrote, just further discuss what they wrote in the discussion board. Because I think they need to be able to defend their ideas in a live setting as well, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's just what I've been thinking about lately. So.
It does make sense to, maybe do a special meeting that students can participate in an online course, where, hopefully most of them can attend. And so I think being able to record that session in Zoom would be really important. And then one idea that came to mind for discussion threads for this is that you could have your students do a video reflection. So then they have to provide a link in a discussion thread with whatever questions that you want them to answer. And so maybe they answer part of it in text, and then they answer the following two questions in a video link. And so they have to either upload that to OneDrive, or if they're comfortable with YouTube or whatever it is they want to, then they can link it to their discussion thread. And so that's a way that, if you're looking to add more of that innovative type ways for interaction in discussion threads. So feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to share some ideas.
Okay, and that's a great idea. And before you get back to the session for today, do you have a document, or are there places to look where I can give students guidance on how to do that? I've never had them do that before. Do you have a document I can give them on instructions for doing that?
We have a document on uploading files to OneDrive. And so then, they can record their video on their camera, and then they can save their file to OneDrive. And so we can provide that document. And I'm happy to, work with you to look at, your instructions, regarding this as well, on a one-to-one. We do, one-on-one consultations with faculty.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, no worries. Cindy, if you have questions, feel free to jump on.
It's not that I really have questions, Chris. my concern here is that I'm teaching a lab class. And so that seems to be a substitute for the discussion that you're talking about. They've got to do the lab and they've got to write a report on it and submit that. So I'm not sure how I can do a discussion board whenever I'm looking at lab results too.
So I think that, like, one way that Ryan was talking about defending their ideas and thoughts, or even the work that they're doing, just being able to share it, perhaps even with your lab, just lab reports, they could, write, participate in a discussion, whether it's text-based or another form of media to share, to defend, their final report or the labs that they're participating in. And so I think it's just something that faculty, as you guys get ready to teach in the summer, kind of continue to brainstorm these ideas on what's the best way. You guys might decide only to do one discussion board each week or one every other week. And then as you complete summer one with the different instructional activities that you guys are doing, then you'll be able to realize that, okay, where are the areas that I think would be best to support my students' learning. And you might decide to implement more methods, for discussion, or you might decide to implement other features in WT class that will support your students' learning. And so I know it's an ongoing conversation trying to figure out, and so we're going to help you guys as much as we can. So we have Krista. She responded to a few posts. You see my post. I'm going to exit preview, and I'm going to keep the preview data. And so now I'm going to show you a few ways to access the discussion boards to grade. And so, but before one of the things that we do want to recommend is that when you are interacting with your students' discussion boards, we would recommend going to discussion board. And then you can go through, let's just go through this meet and greet form. You can go through it and you can read your student's response and reply to each student easily. And so as the discussion board is open for that week, we recommend that faculty go in sooner than later so that they see that you are participating in the discussion, and it will likely engage other students to be a part of it and be more active, from the beginning. And so you can respond to your students through that discussion thread, the discussion board tab, and read and respond. And so this is where you would respond. You could respond in the gradebook, but we would recommend that you respond here. But if you decide you want to do that, you'll see that you can respond in the gradebook. So there's two ways for grading your students' work. You can go into the needs grading area and or the full grade center. So I'm going to go into the needs grading area. What you will see here is a menu with your students' discussion boards, and you will be able to grade it right here. Let me see what happened to fix this real quick, because we should have seen either myself or Krista's real quick. So give me 1 second. Okay, so now we have the items and needs grading. So I was on mute and I was explaining to you all, I was going into the discussion board to look at the settings, and I had to change it from 3 posts to 1 post so that it would activate in this needs grading. And so I'm going to select user attempt, and then that will give you access to the students' threads and replies. And so you'll be able to read and grade your students' work here. You'll be able to see their initial threads and you'll be able to see their replies. And so you'll see all that here. We don't recommend replying here. We recommend replying in the actual discussion board area. And so then when you're going into your discussion, the needs grading or the grade, you can just focus on reading the content and then just grading the students. And so work, and then you can provide feedback here. And so whether you want to let them know to respond to more students, or they need to be more thoughtful in their responses, you can give specific feedback here. And then you can click submit, and then you'll be able to go to the other students. Since I clicked on Krista's first and she was at the last, it didn't go to the next. And so if you clicked on the first person's and then you click submit and read their discussions and then put their grade in and provide feedback here, it would go to the next person's discussion thread after you click submit. So I'm just going to click submit for this one. And then all the students are graded. And so that's one area to do your grading. And then the other area would be in your full grade center. You would see exclamation marks right here, and then you'll be able to click on, I believe it's, let's see, I should have left one. It would be grade attempt. And so then when you select that last option here, you'll be able to see the same window that you just saw in the needs grading. So then you can read the replies, and then you could provide their grade and feedback. So depending on which way you would prefer, it's going to have the same outcome. So some folks like to just go into the needs grading area, and then some folks like to go into the full grade center to grade. So those are the basic tips and practices to implement your discussion boards and respond and grade. And so we'll give you access to this presentation so that you'll have access to the instructions. And then if you have any further questions, or if you want to brainstorm, how to best implement discussions for your online course, we are happy to help out. We do have just a few more trainings. I think you both have attended all now, I believe. If not, if we'll also be sending out video links to the trainings as well. So, and of course, if you guys need our help, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to support you all. Hope this was helpful as you begin to, create your discussion boards for your online courses.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, so the template. So I imported the template from a couple weeks ago into my class, and I'm still sort of figuring out to what degree to use that model, to what degree to use the different model. Figuring out exactly what structure is most appropriate for my class. But I'm looking at the dev template, and I see that. So on the left, and I'm turning my head away from the computer, so if you ever can't hear me, just let me know. But I see on the left that there's a section called course materials, and underneath it there's content and there's discussion board. Yeah, and from what I understand that you've been using the discussion board, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that from what I can tell, based on having copied the original dev thing from a couple weeks ago into my pre-existing course, I don't see that section called course materials with content and discussion board underneath it on that original thing that I had imported into my course. So I guess my question is, can I copy that that part of the thing you're using now into my current course?
You can.
Is that
Yeah.
doable? Okay.
You can. Have you started building your online course, or are you still working on the tabs? And
Yeah, I mean, I
guess my
to be honest, I'm not like, so the best practices template that y'all have set up seems great, but it also seems like I'm just not sure if it's the right format for a graduate course. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe something more simple, but in any case, yeah, I'm just double checking that I can copy that part of the new dev template into my course, having already copied the previous one.
Right.
But it sounds like I can. So
you can, yeah. So if you go back to, I think you have access to this instructor review as a course copy, and you'll be able to go to your packages and utilities, click on course copy. And then when you do that, let's see, you'll select your summer course of, by doing existing course, browse, select it, and then you can select content, and then you can select discussion board.
Great. Okay.
And so those are, and then you click submit, and then it should copy that into your course. If you have issues, just let me know, and I'm happy to jump on to help guide you through that. And then I think, if anything, with the template, you guys have access to modifying it. And so do what you think is best, for your students and for your teaching. And so if you feel like you need to simplify in some areas, feel free to do that. The recommendations that are in there are best practices, and it's very detailed, and some of it can be replaced based on what you're wanting to do. And some of it might not be necessary just because you might not need it. But if you could use it, that would be great. If it's not applicable, then you guys have to decide what to edit.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that y'all have given us that option. There's so much there we can use. So I really appreciate that.
No problem. We want to just help you guys through this, process, this new, I guess.
The new normal?
I don't want to say normal, but I just,
yeah.
The new method for many of you all, that are not used to online teaching. And so hopefully this does help you all.
Yep. It does. It definitely does. Yep.
Well, if you don't have, Cindy, do you have any questions? Okay, well, if y'all don't have any questions, we're gonna end this session, and feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for being a part of our trainings, and enjoy your day, okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, no worries. Take care, Ryan.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.